So specialized cells is really interesting, and you've got to really think about, and it's probably the first time you've really been exposed to this, is what were you when you were first conceived as a single human, as a how did you start? And what you started off as was a single cell, right? It's a really interesting name. It is called a blastocyst. Blastocyst. And that's what you started as a single cell, a nucleus, and that was it. No, why am I using the wrong word? I think the word I'm actually looking for is zygote. The word blastocyst popped into my head. Maybe something I was teaching on. So this is zygote, which is a really cool word. We all started off as a zygote, a single cell. This cell had only one job to do, and nothing else, just to replicate. And that was it. And as you became bigger and bigger and bigger, your cells specialized into different jobs. Now, there are two types, and this is what I mean. A specialized cell is a cell that has a specific job, a specific function. And I'm just going to get rid of things that I think are really irrelevant off this. And some of the most common ones that you will see are muscle cells, brain cells. This is a nerve cell here. So when we look at this, and as I zoom in, oh, I'm actually on the wrong, and no wonder I can't write on it. Let's get rid of that. I'm in the wrong place. So as I zoom in here, you have cells like muscle cells. This is it looks like a smooth muscle cells, not striated, but really doesn't matter. This is a nerve cell, and this is a red blood cell. They all have a particular job. When you were a zygote, you didn't have a particular job. You were a single cell with no special function. As your cells replicated, each one started to have a special job. Muscle cells are there for you to contract. Nerve cells are for communication, and red blood cells are for carrying oxygen. But we're not just going to look at animals, we're also going to look at plants. And plants have specialized cells. They have a special job. This is a root hair cell. Its job is to take up water and minerals. This here is a palisade cell. You find it in leaves. And we're going to look at these structures in detail as we progress through the work that we're doing. Now, that's a palisade cell. And you find it in a leaf. This is a xylem vessel. You'll find that in a plant. And we're going to have a look at them, as I said, in detail. I like looking at plants because you can actually pull them apart and look at these structures inside them. Now, they each have a specialized job, and they are designed for it. In other words, they have certain characteristics that make them good at the job. Down here, there's some information sheets. And we're going to, as I said, these are doubled up because they're made for printing. So these are doubled up, and these are just for plants. And I'm going to briefly talk about them. All right. Let me just get a here and label this plants. Okay. Now, these are palisade cells. And you've got to, as I said from day one, get used to these kind of words that we use. It's second nature to me, but it never was when I was younger. I was talking to year 13 and really saying to them that there are things, no, actually, no, it was year 11, that things are strange when you first hear them. And you just get used to the language. All right, so where do you find the palisade cell? It's near the top of any leaf, right? How do I look? It is long and thin and packed full of chloroplasts. We looked at cell structures. These green things are chloroplasts. I'm going to write it here. I'm going to break off there. And these are chloroplasts. And I'll say, this is where plants turn sunlight into food. And it's called photosynthesis. And again, I don't expect you to remember this. What I expect you to do is just kind of, get used to the language that I'm using. What makes me special? I love the sun. My chloroplasts are full of a pigment called chlorophyll. A pigment means it's almost like a dye, a colour. That, and chlorophyll is used for photosynthesizing, right? Photosynthesis is a process of plants converting carbon dioxide and water into glucose and oxygen. Glucose is a sugar that we use as an energy source. The key words that are really important when it comes to palisade cells are photosynthesis, chloroplast, and chlorophyll. Okay. So now we have root hair cells. You find this in the roots of plants. Okay. They are long and thin, and the reason that you have this root hair cell is to give it a large surface area. And they have a large surface area to absorb water and minerals, as I said. Minerals are really important. They're essential for a plant as they are for you to make sure they're healthy. They do not have chloroplasts. The reason being they're underground. There's no sunlight there. Right? So keywords, no chloroplasts, absorption of water and minerals. Okay. Now, next plant structure we're going to look at is the phloem. These are really cool words. These are long and thin. All right. They are found in a plant and they transport food, mainly the sugars. All right. There's a word, and that whole transport is called translocation. We're not going to bother with that. I'd like you to use it if you can. It's not important, but the important thing is the phloem is specialized for transporting food, which is usually dissolved sugars, and it's like a hollow tube, and it looks like a hollow tube. Right. Xylem vessels, they're actually also found inside there. They're like straws. They're made of dead cells, and it's like a straw. Right? It's hollow in the middle. That's a cool word, xylem. I say it because I'm so used to it. It starts with an X and it's xylem. They mainly carry water and minerals from the roots upwards. All right? And that's it. That's all you need to know. They transport water. They're called xylem tubes. They transport water and minerals. And that is a specialized cells for plants. I've picked a few for animals. Okay? Just let me get rid of that and grab this and move it now. Okay. So these are animals. I'm just going to put a frame around here. These are animal cells. And put animals. Okay. And animal cells, these are muscle cells. It's not the best image of a muscle cell, but they're muscle cells. They're full of mitochondria. And I said to you last week, mitochondria is how we release energy, right, from structure. They are long and can contract. That means shrink. They contain lots of mitochondria, not to produce. To release. You cannot produce energy. That means to make, and you can't. To release energy required for movement. All right. Keywords, mitochondria, contraction, and they look like fibers. This is a nerve cell. The technical word is a neuron. You'll hear CNS, that's central nervous system, your brain and your spine. You find it in other places as well. Your brain and your spine. They react to stimulus. That is what's happening in the environment. If you get a pinprick, that is a stimulus. Okay? Oh my God, all this information I'm throwing at you. And they cause an effect. They cause your hand to move away from something sharp. Right? The key idea for me is they're long and thin and they send messages. That's it. Last one, sperm cell. All right? Now, if you look at its adaptation, it's specialized, it has a tail. It has a tail for swimming. In here is its nucleus. It carries the DNA, the genetic information, half of it to make you. Its sole purpose is to fertilize an egg. Now, I'm recording this. I'm at my time. I don't like overgoing. Match and draw. This is a palisade cell, and you've got the descriptions here. You have to match them to the descriptions. Now, here you can, don't do it here. I want you to draw a diagram, label it, give me key features, like a sperm cell has a tail, a nerve cell is long and thin, and what its job is. All right? Now, if you manage to finish, Untitled Doc, you've got some questions here. Okay? Now, I've gone through that pretty quickly. The